Hello, this is a video about typing squares and entity interpolation. I made a multiplayer engine after reading some articles about how the source engine works, as in the Half-Life source engine, and they described how to interpolate moving players, and it's the kind of stuff you see in Counter-Strike, and it's a pretty smooth, fast game. In any case, I set about trying to make a much simpler version of that with my moving squares here. So first, I've got a server. You can't see it, but I have it open in another window here. It's just a bunch of scrolling, boring text. Well, what it's doing is it's sending my movements here, in this case the red player, and it's sending them to the blue player. I'm going to Alt-Tab to the blue player and move him around, and it'll send it to the red player. So they can both move around. And at the moment, there's no fancy tricks here. The only reason it looks so smooth is because the server is sending us position updates for these players 60 times per second, and the server and my client being this little HTML5 interface here, are on the same computer, so there's no lag. Now, you don't need entity interpolation for that, but you do need it for a more realistic internet scenario, which I'm going to simulate here. One of the first things I'm going to do is I made a little console with commands so I can control the server, and I'm going to turn the server down from 60 frames a second to, let's see, 30. So even at 30, we're probably going to see that it's pretty smooth. You can see a little bit of jitter now, though. There's obviously some jitter, but I mean, even if a game played like this, it'd still be great. I'm going to turn it down even more. Let's see, let's do a tick rate of 10. 10 frames per second is not too horrible, actually. It might sound bad, might not look great, but this is pretty playable too. This is the area where you start to want some sort of interpolation to smooth it out, and the way you do that is, well, actually there's a lot of ways to do it. The way I did it, which I think is how the source engine does it, is I save the movement that occurred one frame ago, one frame being one of these jitters you see, and I save it and I wait till I get one more frame of data, and then I sort of render real smoothly between those two to make it look smooth. So let me turn on the server rate even more so it becomes more dramatic, and then I'll turn on the interpolation code and we can see how it works. So let's see, this was 10, I think. We'll do 5. So there, those are pretty big jumps. So I'll move the blue player now on the other screen, and the interpolation code I have only works for the other players. You have to use a different technique for your own player, something which I have not yet figured out, but I'm working on as well. In any case, so here's the blue player, not interpolated. What we're seeing here are the real updates, one every 1/5 of a second. And now I'm going to go ahead and enable interpolation, if I can remember the command I made. I tried to make them sound like source commands so I can remember them. cl interp 1, maybe? Okay, so it says I did it, we'll see. So I'm going to go move blue some more. So now you see blue is all super smooth. However, the server is still ticking at the same rate it was before. In fact, I could even turn it down a little bit. Not a whole lot. As you start to get really, really low, you start to get really weird behavior. In fact, I'll do that. We'll just take it down to 2. So now it's sending 2 frames a second. If I were to move myself, if I were to move red here, you see as I click, it's just big, slow jumps. So I'm going to move blue with the interpolation, and it's probably actually too slow for blue to get any sort of smoothness. Blue's okay going in a straight line, but if I move blue around, you'll see that blue can actually only move a minimum distance now. Like, I'm only moving the cursor just a teeny bit on blue's screen, but blue's jumping around, a few inches here. Only because in the half a second in between updates, we can't take into account that blue's change direction, and so it just ends up going back and forth. But in any case, I'll turn up the server back to a reasonable rate. I think I read that the source engine uses 33 or 30 updates per second, and we will move around. So now we'll see, this is the non-interpolated. Even at 33, it almost looks smooth. It almost looks like I'm doing some sort of algorithm here to make it crisp, but that's just what 33 looks like. Blue, which is interpolated, will be ultra smooth, and there we see that. So that's entity interpolation, or what it looks like, for which I will release the code right after I upload this video. The other thing I'm working on is client prediction. For ourselves, we need to predict where we're going to go if we want to smooth our own movement. So I'm going to turn down the tick rate back to something low enough that we can see it again, 5. And blue's still interpolated, so blue's all smooth, even though he's only getting as much data as red is. Like, he, in truth, as far as the server is concerned, is moving like this, big chunks. But we're just drawing him pretty. To make ourselves smooth, we can't really interpolate. And the reason we can't interpolate is the only way we're able to render blue smoothly is we're actually showing blue slightly in the past. We're waiting for 2 updates from blue, and then we're drawing blue going between those 2 updates. So blue's actually, technically, he's 1 server step behind, which in this case, at, what was this, a tick rate of 5? He's 200 milliseconds behind. Now, even in a fast-paced multiplayer game, that doesn't seem to matter. It seems to just look good and be good. But for yourself, you can't actually have a 200 millisecond lag before you yourself start moving, just so you can draw yourself smooth. It starts to get unplayable, especially if you like try and turn, because you think you're going one way and then you start to turn, but 200 milliseconds later you find out that you didn't turn and you just like walk into the wall. So to make it look smooth for yourself, you have to predict where you're going to go and draw the smoothing for that, which I have not really mastered, but I do have one little version of it in place, and it is literally just me looking ahead of where the cursor is and pretending like we're going to just blend the player on into that direction. So here it is, being predicted. Problem with this is, problem is I need to read more, because with this predictive behavior, if I move real fast around the player, you see the player just jumps around. Now, if I turn on prediction for blue and then move blue, you won't see any of that, because even though blue's jumping around like crazy on blue's screen, this is in fact what it looks like to red, because he's not actually jumping around. It's just purely, the prediction is really just a lie. It's a lie of 100 milliseconds or 200 milliseconds into the future. It's guessing where you're going to go. In any case, that's all I have now for this multiplayer engine, but I'm going to be working on it, and if I get a little bit more organized and actually learn more, I will hopefully be able to write some articles and put them on timetocode.tumblr and upload all my code. Well, thanks for watching.